Okay, I've got the parts I need laying right here on the bench. Now, okay, here's the bullet feeder. And one of the first things I got to do is take the fingers off. So I have to remove this screw. This rod will come out. And then you just spread the fingers apart, take that set of fingers off. You won't need that. And then the next thing for us to do is take this off, and this is kind of under some spring tension. Remove the rubber O-ring and take this piece off. Remove the 38-357 and 9mm die there and replace it with 45 ACP. And you got these springs here. That's the return spring for the fingers. You want to make sure you got those down in there. Let's see here. Make sure I'm doing this right now. This will line up and will fit together. Should fit together. It'll be tight. Okay. And this here is for the large diameter bullets, 45s, and you just snug it down. That's all you need to do. Here's the fingers for 45 caliber bullets, and you got to make sure you get those on right. Because they grab the bullet as it comes down the tube. Put the screw, we'll start it. But before I go too far, I got to hook this rod back in. It goes in there. Excuse me 1 minute. My sister-in-law calling for my wife. Of course, she's at church, so I'll just let it ring and let the answer machine get it. Tighten that screw back down, just snug, because the way this works, bullet drops down into here, and the rod will activate this lever. Imagine a bullet on those fingers. Okay, and they will come forward and drop a bullet onto the piece of brass and then retract as the case is being pushed up in the bullet seating die. And as I said, this has to go on where the bullet seating die goes. And I've got a mark here. Let me get this back up. I've got a mark there on that bolt. I don't know if I can show it to you or not. You can see the mark on the bolt. That's where this plate is going to set. And I just line up the plate with the mark and get the die started back in. Of course, I'll have to check my bullet seating, make sure it's right. That's the reason why I have a dummy round that I use for 45. And I have another one that's for the round nosed. This is truncated cone. That way I can always check the seating die. Okay. And of course, like I said, this rod has to go back in. And I should hook that rod up before I put the die in. Okay, now the rod's hooked up. And I'll take the channel locks. Wish I had a wrench or a crescent wrench large enough so I didn't have to use something with jaws. But you just really need to snug that up. You don't have to torque nothing. But I hate leaving marks. Okay, that's snugged up now. So there we go. And like I said, the action, bullet drops, feeds through where the casing is, and you can look to make sure you got those fingers lined up with the bullet seating die. And if you ever look at the bullet seating die, you can tell that it's made for those fingers. Those fingers I may have to do a little bit of adjustment. That didn't snap back like it was supposed to. So I may have to do just a little bit of adjustment. There they go back. There we go. But these fingers are cone shaped. And if you look at the die, which I done put the 38s up, they're kind of beveled. They're made to hit this and spread those fingers so it can drop the bullet on the casing. So, okay, let me get some more stuff cleaned up. I don't like having a lot of stuff out, and I'll be right back. Okay, you can't use the case feeder on this particular die because it just doesn't fit. So you have to use a single tube, which probably hold about 25 bullets for it to feed in there. And basically you just drop a bullet in, like so, and it comes down to the bottom, fingers spread apart, and the bullet's there. And then when you work it, the fingers will grab the bullet, bring it out, and then drop it into the casing. So, okay, so I've got the bullet feeder installed. Now I'm going to install the powder dispenser. That's easy. It just screws on like so. There we go. Powder dispenser is screwed on. Now I have to hook the chain up to it. And we'll start the chain through. And then you don't want so much tension that the chain breaks apart, but you want enough tension to where it actually moves the spring. But there's a place here to feed the chain through. There's two holes. But I want to make sure that when I work when the handle's up, there's tension on the chain, but not enough to pop the chain out of its link. And then go up. Now I have to make sure that I need an empty case. I want to make sure that, and of course what it do? Pop the chain. Okay. So I got to hook that back up. There's the top link that broke. Well, it didn't break. It's just it's popped out. Okay. Now I placed a case on the feeder. It will feed it and pop loose. So I got too much tension on it. So right now I'm going to try to adjust that. You want to be able to, want this thing to pull at least enough to get the disc to slide back. Okay, case is in. I'm going to size it. Primer popped out. Just going to go over here and you feed a primer into it. And it goes up. And I don't want to flare the case too much. And it would come out. Flared enough to where it don't shave. Yes, it did. That's how that should look. Should just start down in there. Okay, so I think that's going to work. Now the only other thing left to do, okay, is the case feeder. I can put the case feeder on. Of course, I'll have to adjust it for 45 ACP. But first, get it on, kind of get it snugged up. And you also got to make sure it clears the press. Now I'm going to snug up the bolt. Okay, I think that there. Just a little bit too close to the. There we go. Like I said, you got to do a lot of adjustments on these progressive presses. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to drop 1, 2, 4 cases in. Let's just see how this is going to work. I should drop a case. Feed it, get it out, pick up another case, feed it, pick up another case, feed it, drop the last case, feed it. So that appears to be working fine. Just fed 4 cases through there. Okay, so pretty much I'm all set up. Need to check the bullet seating die, which I'm taking this dummy round with no primer. I'm going to put it in. Okay, now it's over where the primer would be, powder feed. Now it's up in the bullet seating die. I'll run that down till I feel it touch. Should be right on it. And that would feed out. So should be ready to go. Bullet seating die is adjusted, powder hopper is adjusted. I'll need to check to see what powder charge I'm going to use. Tension on the spring. Case feeder. So now basically it is time to feed cases. And even though I have the hopper on there, I like to drop them down one at a time so I know all ends are turned up correctly, which is not a big deal. I mean, you can catch it when it drops it into the position to be sized. You can always catch it and flip it over. Okay, there you go. It is full of brass. And then I'm come up with an idea to keep dust out of my hopper here. A little bit of residue from tumble, but that's coffee can lid. Put that on there and keeps the dust out from inside that. So everything's set up. Just have to put some powder in, and of course the main ingredient, one of the main ingredients, you got powder. You got the brass, you'll have the bullets. You've got to have primers. So we'll have to put primers in here. Everything's all set up. I'll give a little touch of oil to the system just so it runs smoothly. It's been a while since I've done any loading. Seems like bullet seating depth is fine, resizing die is fine, and the powder through die is fine. Of course, another main ingredient, which I haven't even put in here yet, is bullets. And this thing will hold probably about 25 or so bullets. But these you have to pretty much feed by hand down into the tube. Of course, these are 230 grain cast bullets that I casted. They've been sized with a Seiko press and lubed, and will make for some good practice shooting. I believe my buddy Ronnie is going to use 45 in competition this next year. So we want to get some 45s loaded up for him. Of course, I'll be shooting the same caliber. I'm going to shoot 45s. There's the last bullet. And I think there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Might be about 28 bullets in there. Now, if I was using the multiple bullet feeder, I have a cap that I put on top. Covers all 4 tubes, but can't use it. So, and then one last thing that I've done. This is a light, so I can see in the casing here. And what I do, put that over the bullet seating die, and it's got a flexible neck. and I can turn it on, and I can be able to make sure that before I put a bullet in the casing, I have powder in the brass. So that's it. Changed it out. Oh, probably took me about an hour to get it all set up. So we're ready to start loading some 45 caliber bullets. Okay, everybody. Getting ready to load the 45 ACP. I've got the brass in the case feeder, bullets in the bullet feeder. Getting ready to put primers into the primer tray. And get ready to load some of these 45 ACPs. Okay. I'll put about 10, 20, 30. I'll put about 50 primers in the tray here. Tie it upside down. Set them out of the way. Of course, most of these are already upright the way they're supposed to be. Got a couple here that needs to flip over. Flip that one over by hand. Put the lid on. And to keep them from falling out, you can, I've seen people do this, but I just don't know if you got enough force right there or not, but I use a tool that I made. It just kind of holds the primers from falling out until I get them in there. And I'm giving it a shake to get the primers in place. And of course I'll have to measure the first case, make sure the powder hopper is throwing out the right amount. Turn my light on. Set this up where you can see. Here's my light. Okay. And first case dropped. Of course, I'm going to have a couple bullets drop out. Okay. Primer's seated. And we'll see. I better turn the powder on. Probably do this a couple times on powder. Okay. Now I'm going to measure how much powder was dispensed. 4.4. Not what we're looking for. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this back in the hopper. I'll put this back in. after a few hours, you end up with 250 45 ACPs. 230 grain round nose, 5 grains of unique powder, CCI primers. All from the Lee Pro 1000 Progressive Press.